Hey, I just want to make sure that you pause to read the disclaimer that I'm putting up right now, and you can look in the description for links to any of the things or articles that I will be discussing in this video. Hey, so I decided to split up this video into two parts for several reasons. Some of those many reasons being that the two halves go at two different paces, where in the first half I have to explain a lot of things while mixing in some evidence here and there, and with the second half I mostly just show the evidence while complaining about a few things. So anyway, let's get back to the start of this video. Last year a video of mine was used by two YouTubers, one with over 100k subs and one with over 50k. I wanted to say thank you to the second YouTuber because the way that he did it was completely respectful and fair. That being Christopher Tom. But I couldn't at the time because another YouTuber was stealing my content and pretending as if I was okay with it. And because this other YouTuber is much bigger, if I were to mention Christopher Tom, I would have to mention this other person as well, despite the fact that this person didn't do a thing that they said they would, and this person completely took advantage of me and two other small YouTubers. And that's why I'm here today, to explain how it all went down and why what they did, what he did, was so wrong. Now his video is very long, and I know that some people want me to show the most damning pieces of evidence right off the bat because they have no patience whatsoever, but it doesn't work that way. Because before I can do that, you need context, you need explanations, cross-references, RDMs, etc. So this is going to be a really long video because it's going to take a while to fully break down. I'm here to explain how someone blatantly and intentionally took advantage of us just because we're small and used our opinions to profit off of. And there are situations where people are falsely accused of plagiarism, but this isn't one of those cases. This guy lied to me, he used me, and tried to explain it all away by saying that he was stealing with permission. And I'm just so surprised that I even fell for it all in the first place because of the way that I fell for it. And yes, Turkey Tom, I'm talking to you. So now that I know what I know, I'm gonna say something. Hey everyone, so you know how bad I am with intros. I don't really know how to start this off, so I'm just gonna try to cut to the chase. As the intro card states, everything here is my opinion, which means that everything here is alleged. And that opinion being that Turkey Tom stole my entire video, and he stole from two other YouTubers who were even smaller than me, pretending as if our ideas were his own, through the manipulation of his audience and me personally in our Twitter DMs. I don't know where I'm gonna show the video evidence or the Twitter conversation because I have so much that I need to cover. So before I can get into any actual examples, and believe me, I have an abundance of it, in order for you to understand the full gravity of this issue, we need to have a conversation about what it means to give someone credit, why they deserve it, and the intentions behind the decisions that are made when someone doesn't. Also, I'm going to be inserting 3 text boxes as well as some throughout the video here and there because it just takes a lot less time for me to show it to you than for me to read them out. First, I want to talk about what is proper credit, when you're supposed to give it, and why. All within the context of YouTube. I can't speak for other social media, but I'll show an example of what I'm talking about soon. So when should or shouldn't you be shouting out someone's channel? Well, it's all about how much of someone's video you're using. If it's a lot of their video, you should give them proper credit, meaning that you should make it very clear who they are since you're using so much of their content. And this would be a shout out because people aren't going to pay attention to just a slap of their name in the video. This is a very standard thing on YouTube, and YouTubers have pointed this out in the past.
You know, I'm gonna put you in the description though, so you could get, 8 or 10 subs, which is really good. No, it f***ing wasn't. That's what you do when you're a bigger YouTuber and you see someone putting out some dope content you like. You shout them out. Not just put them in the description and say f***ing nothing about it. You f***ing idiot.
There are, however, cases where you don't use a lot of a person's content, but you should still give them a proper shout out. One is on a personal level. If you really like the person, you don't even have to show their content. This is what we call a favor. You didn't have to use their content, you didn't need to use their content, but you shouted them out as a favor to them. Now, if the clip that you're using is very powerful, adds new depths to your video, is the center focus of your video, or holds any individual weight of its own, it will warrant proper credit in the form of a shout out, because a shout out is the only way to make it clear to your audience who this person is and where their clip came from. A lot of people don't even watch the videos that they play. They just listen while doing something else. So it is very important for you to understand that this is no longer a favor. They are owed credit because you use their material to enhance your own. Their material made your material either more important or more interesting. Now, yes, I'm talking about big YouTubers, but I also want to point out why it would make no sense for a small channel to shout out a big YouTuber. It goes without saying, but you are not helping them by shouting them out because you have no influence whatsoever, and whatever you do have is much smaller than their own. It's honestly egotistical for you to believe that you are giving them any kind of spotlight by shouting out their name, and it's actually manipulative because you're pretending as if using their name in your videos doesn't help you more than it helps them. There isn't a defining area between when you're small and when you're all of a sudden big, but we can definitely say that if you're under 10,000 subs, you're a small channel and you won't be helping anyone by shouting them out, unless maybe they have even less than you. So again, it goes without saying, but that's why almost non-existent YouTube channels never give shoutouts to bigger YouTubers. You're not supposed to, and it's a justifiable insult if you do in most cases. The last instance is a more complicated case. When you take someone's idea and expand upon it, regardless of the expansion, you owe them proper credit in the form of a shout out, because again, your idea is only as powerful as it is because you expanded on someone else's idea. And keep in mind that ideas can expand at various degrees. You can add a little bit more to the conversation or a lot more, but regardless, you owe them a shout out if their message is the core inspiration for your own. This isn't to say that you need to compliment them beyond their wildest dreams. You just need to say their name out loud in conjunction with their material. Key phrase, in conjunction with their material, Tom. There is only one instance where it is perfectly fine to neglect these standards and one instance where it is forgivable not to. It is perfectly fine not to shout out someone's name if you are showcasing several opinions and they add to the video pretty fairly. And that's because of a few reasons. For one, in psychology, when you put more choices in front of a person, they are less likely to make a choice at all and will probably just walk away with nothing. However, if you can persuade them to make the choice on their own without feeling like they have many things to choose from, then they're more likely to walk away with making a decision. If you don't do something, they will be too overwhelmed to pick something in most cases. So when you show, let's say, 6 channels back to back, tell viewers to check them all out and shout out every name, it becomes overwhelming noise for most people. Though there will be a few people who appreciate this, most people will just walk away choosing to look at none of the channels instead. However, if you showcase the channel's content and give viewers a way to access that content, they are more likely to look at the channels because now it's their decision and they don't feel overwhelmed with the choice that they have to make. This is why you don't see people who make compilations shouting out and giving out empty, unique compliments on how great every single channel is in their own unique way, telling you to subscribe to each and every single one of them, because then they mostly wouldn't get any traction at all. Now, because of the way that I have to tell this story, you know, battling between telling it in order or in the way that I figured everything out, I'm going to be sprinkling evidence all throughout this thing. And right now I want to back up what I'm saying at this point in the story. So I'm just going to show you only parts of what Turkey Tom said in our DMs for now, but I will show the full conversation later. So no, I'm not cherry picking, the rest is just irrelevant for now. Some people will argue that he did give me credit, but let me show you what he said he would give me and what I actually got in the end. He said, I would still credit your upload, of course. That's not true. At no point did he show the thumbnail of my video nor the title. All I got was this. He wrote clips I stole, which is bad enough already, but he doesn't mention the ideas that he stole or their thought process. So while you gave credit to part of a clip of mine, the way that you did it was disingenuous. You purposefully buried my name where no one would see it. Not to mention that you took so much more from me and didn't give credit for that at all. And that still doesn't excuse all the other things that you stole and the other people that you stole from, because you didn't give them anything. There's so much that I have to say about this clip, but it isn't relevant to the current topic, so I'll just save it for later. The only instance left is when you can be forgiven for not giving a shout out, even if you're supposed to. This is when you are using clips from someone who you can make a case for them being a deplorable person or someone who is undeserving of the exposure. However, regardless of how much you don't like an individual, objectively, they are owed the exposure if you use their content and they didn't cross a serious red line. And an easy way to know when someone didn't cross a red line, aside from the obvious crimes and, deplorable acts of violence, etc., is when their clips are adding to your points, when their clips make your points stronger, if they are helping your points. So you owe them credit in return for their clips helping you. Again, this is not a favor. If someone's ideas are helping you cultivate your own ideas, you owe them credit. Even if you view them to be a bad person and they're not doing the obvious horrible criminal acts that I prefaced before, you are giving them no incentive to be good if you're stealing credit whenever they say or do something that's right. Hence me explaining that if they are adding to a point, they deserve credit.
We're gonna follow you, we're gonna solve that mystery. We see you Scooby.
Now that we talked about what proper credit is, which is something that all big commentary channels are already aware of, I want to ask you a hypothetical question. And before you strawman in defense of Turkey Tom and tell me that I can't use hypotheticals, you should know that Tom also asked hypothetical questions in his video.
Allow me to ask the viewers at home a question. If this video wasn't supposed to be drama, then why would you frame the video exactly as a drama video? If this was intended to be a serious video, why would you make fun of Nick in the video and bring up unrelated topics?
This was not supposed to be drama. This was supposed to be me voicing my concern for my safety, my home privacy, and how I felt about another creator abusing their platform.
That's drama. You can't just make accusations against someone alluding to them being a predator and not expect any critiques in return. So it was always going to be a drama video and you knew it. Also, why make fun of him then? If you didn't want to cause drama, why bring in people who are unrelated? So it's perfectly fine for me to do the same. So let's say that you hate someone and you want to use their content, but even though you can't stand them, you have to credit them somehow because social convention demands it. If you want to make it as hard as possible for someone to find their video, wouldn't you leave out the thumbnail? Wouldn't you not say their name? Where would you put their name? Because you have to put it somewhere. At the beginning, in the middle, 2/3 in, near the end, or, at the very end of the video. And yeah, that's what he did. He put it at the furthest point of his video. And he can't act like he doesn't know that most people have clicked off by now because he has hundreds of thousands of subs and he has access to his own analytics. This is something that all big YouTubers know. And more importantly, a person already pointed this out in one of the sources that Tom used for his own video.
Do you think everyone had time to watch the whole hour to find out you addressed who that was, identified him halfway through, 30 minutes later or something? And she knows that most people are not gonna watch that whole video either. 45 minutes, 50 minutes, that's a very long time. Listen, we're YouTubers. We've talked about it before, talking about YouTube stuff. Analytics. We know that the longer the video, she and I make very long videos, the less likely people are going to watch it all, because that's a lot of time to ask of people.
So he couldn't have hid my name more if he tried. It's clear that he didn't want people to see it. For why? I don't know. And I don't care. Because even if you hate me, then why not just be upfront and say that then? You can even be professional about it. You can tell people, hey, I don't really associate with this person. I don't agree with a lot of their content or how they conduct themselves, but I think that they said something that was very important. It's that simple, and you couldn't even do that. Not to mention the other two people who you stole from, which I'll get into later. But that's all that you had to do. Now I can understand if someone does one of these things, but to hit all three of them on the mark, it's deliberate. Now I know that some people will say, it's just a coincidence. It doesn't mean that he couldn't have thought of these things all by himself. Well, he watched my entire video before making his and made a joke about stealing sources from me. So it's safe to say that he didn't come up with these ideas on his own. And with that being said, I can move on to the incident that went down between me and Turkey Tom. If you don't know anything about the topic of the videos in question, I will give you a general summary of the controversy that we brought up. If you want to skip over this summary because you already know about it, then click the timestamp and we can move on. For anyone who doesn't know about the Stephanie Sue incident, this is all that you need to know. Stephanie Sue made a video on a man with the alias Nikocado Avocado. The issue that she brought up in her video was that she accused him of traumatizing her. What did he do to her? Well, he made fun of something that she said to him privately in a video with a few of his friends.
In and out of sleep.
In and out of sleep. In and out, in and out.
Just been in and out of sleep, and I don't know what's going on, but I got things to do. I got things to do.
have you been in and out of sleep?
In and out of sleep. Oh my god.
Nick posted the video publicly while leaving Stephanie's name out of it, and since no one saw her text messages except for Nick and his friends, no one on the internet knew that the joke was about her. Despite it being anonymous, Stephanie claimed to have shakes and panic attacks over Nick saying in and out of sleep. However, the way that she relayed the information is what caused the controversy. It was because of her phrasing and how she edited the opening of the video that led millions of people to believe that Nick actually assaulted her. The opening alone, the very first seconds, is a good example of how she relayed this information.
In and out of sleep.
In and out. In and out.
Hopefully you can trust me now.
I do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do.
Good. Whole Me Too movement.
Hashtag me too.
Now, even though I just told you what her issues with him were, you couldn't see that at all in the opening. It has nothing to do with this in and out of sleep trauma, even though her opening was a compilation of the most important parts of the video. This is a prime example of how she structured it, and she didn't let up on the suggestiveness throughout her entire story. People went on to attack Nick and all of his friends, calling him a pedophile and a rapist, sending death threats to his friends, vivid ones about their families, and so on. It went way too far, and she practically did nothing about it. There was a lot of manipulation and gaslighting involved on her part, so that's all that you need to know. If you want to know more about it, I have an initial reaction and an exposure video that I made. I also made shorter versions for anyone who doesn't want to sit through the whole thing, since people demand that I shorten my videos, so you can click either of those versions in the description for more context.
Don't look back, you might find another clue.
Okay, we're heading towards the conversation on Twitter. Here's the order of events. I recorded my initial reaction to Stephanie's first video right after she uploaded it. This was before Nick ever made a response video. And it's already obvious when you watch it, but this evidence solidifies the fact that everything that I said in my video was my own original idea. After I put up my video, I got a lot of comments and PMs from people who told me that there was more to the story. Ex-fans of Stephanie who have followed her throughout the years noticed that her video was a direct contradiction with who she really is.
I have never watched in my life a video like this that has made my skin crawl. This girl makes my skin crawl. I can't even believe I was a fan of hers.
That I know.
So some people sent me links to different things, and then I started to look into things myself. A lot of people wanted me to do a follow-up video. Like I said, everyone who was involved with exposing Stephanie, for the most part, were either small YouTubers or ex-fans of Stephanie. So the respect that we had between each other was pretty mutual because it was clear that we just wanted to get the truth out there. This was a group project of small YouTubers who were trying to tell the truth about something that they knew was wrong. Everyone spent weeks and some of us months putting this information together because this was something that we genuinely cared about. And then what Turkey Tom did was the equivalent of, you know that kid in school when you have a group project to work on and he doesn't want to do any of the work, then on the last day he slaps his name on it and takes all the credit? Except in this case, he wasn't actually in your group to begin with. He just steals your project, gets all the credit for your hard work while getting thousands of dollars, views, and subs from it. So since during that time, a few smaller YouTubers told me that they wanted to make videos on her too, but they didn't know if they should, and I never expected to have a bigger YouTuber contact me. This is why when Turkey Tom actually messaged me, I was under the impression that he was just another small YouTuber who was thinking about making a video, not some bigger YouTuber with over 100k subs who wanted to use my content. Which means I already went in with the idea of him being an innocent person with pure intentions because of that. I had my guard down and I didn't even realize it. And then on top of that, he's speaking in a way that is so meek and overly nice for no reason. So it intensified the idea that I already had of him. He even starts off by apologizing. Hi there, sorry to bother you, but I just wanted to message you about a video that you made that I saw. Already the language that he's using is giving you that innocent impression of his character. But when you look at his video, he talks like this.
Also, Stephanie, I may find your videos terrible and I may have spent a decent amount of time insulting you and your friends. However, put this on and we'll call it even.
It's like he's two completely different people. And if you couple that with everything else that I'm going to show you, it's clear that this private persona of his is fake, and who he is in his video is either the real him or who he would like to be. And for anyone who might say that this is obvious and I should have known that he was like this or something, how was I supposed to know any better when I've never heard of him before? I have no idea who this guy is, so all I can go off of is what he shows me. His Twitter name isn't even the same as his channel name, but I'll come back to that later. He then says,
I've been reading a lot about the Nikocado, Avocado, and Stephanie Sue drama lately, and while looking into it, I happened to see your video and thought that it was really good, and did a great job of finding inconsistencies in what Stephanie said.
This sentence is very important. Take a second look. For one, keep in mind that he said that I did a really good job. Well, he said my video did a really good job. Secondly, he over-explains himself by saying that he's done research. Had no reason to bring it up, doesn't say where, what kind of research, or from who, because this isn't a segue or an explanation. While on the surface this looks like a normal conversation and he's just segueing into how he found me, he's actually setting up a false narrative early on. And that false narrative being that he's already had this opinion and his opinion has nothing to do with me, so he's going to just pat me on the head for also realizing that he's quote unquote already researched it. In other words, this is him secretly revealing why he isn't going to credit me, as if I was supposed to know that upon reading it. And that's why he only complimented me on pointing out inconsistencies, as if my own opinion didn't add to the conversation at all. As if he's only congratulating the video or the sources in the video and not me. And that's not some far-fetched conspiracy, he admits it later. And as you already know, all he did in the end was credit my sources. So just keep that in mind. Then he says,
I plan on making a video of my own to set the record straight, so to speak, as I think I can do it in a way that will get a lot of attention.
His video didn't set the record straight because it came out so long after the incident that it was already set straight by the people that he stole from, but on top of that, he didn't even get that many views. Stephanie's video had over 10 million views. He didn't even break 300,000 at the time. This is his current view count on the video right now. Nothing in comparison to 10 million. And later I will get into why exactly that is, when I show the evidence of him stealing. He then says,
I just wanted to ask you if you were okay with me using some of the research that you did for my own video.
I thought that you did your own research. Didn't you say that you read things yourself? So how do you not already know about the things that I showed here? Because this was pretty much it, and it's not hard to find. This was like most of the information that was out at the time. I showed the original source material, so what have you been reading if you actually did your own research? This is proof that he didn't really do much research, or else he wouldn't have had to come to me for permission. Because wouldn't he have found this stuff on his own? Being that you can't do a proper analysis without bringing these specific things up, you'd think that he'd already have this information. Then he says,
I would still credit your upload, of course.
Yeah, you'll credit my upload. Like, who talks like that? People just say, I will credit you. But no, it's just my upload, because it was my sources that did a good job, and not me, remember?
I would still credit your upload, of course. But I don't want to reference your video if you're not open to it, or if you feel like you don't want me to use your research for my own vid.
You see how he keeps saying your video, not me, as if he didn't want to reference any of my opinion? Just my video, just my sources, not anything that I had to add. Well, he did reference my opinion. Setting aside the fact that I haven't proved how he copy-pasted my entire video, let's just pretend that he didn't. Even aside from that, he did reference my opinion. I had a whole segment where I explained why I originally believed that Stephanie was fake crying, and he used that clip in his own video.
Every other instance of her crying that we have been able to find.
These tears are much more real. She's constantly messing with her nose, her eyes are very wet, she isn't switching her entire persona, and she's sniffling constantly because her nose is actually running.
It's lame. And I can't forget, like,
She's wiping her eyes a lot more because she's actually crying. Even Christopher Tom used this clip because it was something important. This was one of the many times that I added to the conversation, and I'll come back to this later, but the point that I'm making is, look at the lengths that Turkey Tom is willing to go to in order to remove any recognition whatsoever. Christopher Tom recognized what I did. He gave me credit.
Another point Kurena Fujio brought up is that Stephanie's crying in her past videos seems a lot more authentic than in her first video about Nick.
These tears are much more real. It's a smooth transition. Her facial expression is different. It's scrunched.
And I wanted to protect this person. I wanted them to stop hurting them. And I didn't know what to do.
She looks like it hurts to talk because that's how it feels when you're actually crying.
You know when your mouth gets really big because you're trying to overcompensate, your mouth is overcompensating for the lack of noise coming out, so your mouth is like...
But as for Turkey Tom, he pretended as if my opinion isn't even a factor. His logic is that my analysis is nothing, and the only thing that matters is the sources and the visuals that are displayed. And if so, then what do you call the friend that you mentioned in your video, the one from Twitter?
I'd encourage you to take a look at a few interesting inconsistencies with her footage. I messaged Toad McKinley about the situation, and he brought something interesting to my attention. Firstly, take a look at this footage. Notice that the quality is pretty good, it's in color, and the text is slightly to the right of the top left-hand corner of the frame. In another video where she showed security camera footage, you can see that the video was black and white, and the text is in a different place, as well as being two different colors.
According to you, they were just reacting to her security footage. It's not like they were sharing an idea or anything, huh? Only credit their sources, Tom. Why shout them out? So if you can give your friend credit for influencing your opinion, you have no excuse not to do the same with me. You could have easily mentioned my name at this point, but you didn't. Then he goes on to say, in a nutshell, I want to steal with permission. I didn't understand what that meant. Like, I remember reading that at the time and being so confused, because in one breath he's congratulating my work, while also insinuating that I added nothing to the conversation, and then apologizing left and right. I didn't know what to think of it, and since I thought he was a small channel, I just wrote it off like, well, he's not stealing because he said he would credit me, and he said that he just wanted to use my sources. So maybe he doesn't know what fair use is, and he thinks he's stealing if he doesn't ask, which is a very common mistake that newbie YouTubers make. So at no point did I think that he would actually word for word steal everything that I said. It's one thing to take sources from someone, it's another thing to take someone's entire video and reword it. Like, he's making it seem like he only took sources from me in that one clip. He reworded every point that I made from start to finish, and I will be showing that soon. However, when I start off, it will be easy to write off until you get to around the 20-minute mark of his video. At that point, the truth becomes undeniable. But someone please define for me what stealing with permission is, especially if you say you're going to give credit in the end. The only thing that I can think of now that I have hindsight is asking for permission for one thing and stealing something else. Hey, can I have some money? Sure. Thanks. Hey, I didn't say that you could steal my whole wallet. Something like that. It's like you get permission to get your foot through the door and then you rob someone's house. Now, when he sent me all of that, about a month went by before I even saw it. It's hard to explain. I don't know how Twitter works, so I never saw it. Didn't even know he sent it. This made it hard for me to look at the situation objectively because I was discombobulated. You already know that I thought that he was a small YouTuber, and I already assumed that he didn't know how fair use worked because of how he was talking to me. But on top of that, since it took a month for me to respond, I felt bad because I didn't want him to think that I was ignoring him. So everything that I just told you was even harder for me to see at the time because when you put it all together, I thought that he was some guy with like 2,000 subs. I left him unread for a month. He was overly apologetic on top of that, so I felt even worse for leaving him unread for that time, and he seemed to not know how fair use worked. I thought he was really naive, and I didn't want him to get walked over by people in the future, so I gave him some advice, and I said, I don't know why, but I never got this message notification until now. Reading currently. Well, for one, I'm perfectly fine with it, and two, it's fair use. So if you ever want to talk about something that you feel is the right thing to do, and someone tells you not to use their clips, you can still do it. Just put the copyright claim at the beginning and credit them. It's obvious that I don't know this guy. He could have explained himself. He chose not to because he was banking on me believing that he was innocent and he had innocent intentions. And it's sad because if he hadn't have been the way that he was towards us, that would have been like a funny little memory. I explained fair use to someone with over 100k subs. Boy, do I feel silly. So you can see here how I was genuinely confused about the idea of stealing.
Yeah, I know it's fair use. I just thought that it was worth the courtesy. Thanks for being a G.
Even then, he calls it a courtesy, further leading me to believe that he's being overly considerate. And because I fell for it, I responded with, yeah, no problem, I appreciate it. You do enough response videos and you stop asking. I did it first, but what I do now is use other people's stuff and just credit them. And if it's someone who I can support, I PM them and tell them afterwards. It's funny because one of my friends pointed out to me that I told him exactly what to do, like step by step in treating people fairly. But I'm supposed to believe that this was all an accident, right? The truth of the matter is, all big YouTubers know that once you know what fair use is, it's honestly manipulative to continue this courtesy. Because why are you asking for permission to do something that isn't wrong? And if you're like me, and you have videos where you use 20 different sources, and then you go and ask them all for permission, they don't even respond to you half the time. And what if you quote an article? Did you ask the writer for permission for it too? No, nobody does that because we all know that you can show pieces of an article and comment on it. So in most cases, it's disingenuous to ask people for something that is fair use, and the only reason why people continue to do it is either to network, to flex that they're not scared of someone who they're about to expose or criticize, or to come across nicer than they actually are. And that's why I don't do it anymore. But like I said, all professional YouTubers know this already. I'm just explaining it for the general public. So yes, I was ironically being a naive newbie when I was assuming that he was a naive newbie. And even though he said that he knew what fair use was, I was still confused. So because of this irony, I continued to give him the advice because I was so confused by the things that he was telling me. Like deep down I could tell that it was contradictory, but it just made no sense. So I was like, I guess he's naive. And I said, but yeah, just never let someone silence you if you're doing nothing wrong. Because I didn't want him to feel discouraged in the future if someone takes a month to respond like I did, or if someone does respond and tells him no. He then replied and said,
That makes sense to me, yeah. Additionally, in your video about Stephanie, you used the compilation that it looks like you were reacting to clips of Stephanie, like the one where she talks about putting staplers in her boyfriend's shoes. Did you make that yourself, or is there a copy of it somewhere else?
You want to know what clip he's talking about? The one where he claims to have no clue that it's not mine? This is the clip.
Yeah, this is a really great person with an awesome character. So this shows that she has a character of getting revenge on people and like really wanting them to suffer. That's my opinion. This shows her true character behind that squeaky, clean, I don't have any drama image. Here we go.
I was on some CIA shit back in the day, I'm gonna tell you that.
She's proud of herself. She's proud of herself. She's proud of being a little femme fatale, you know, person. She's straight out of the film noir era. Who does that? Who does that? Who falsely claims they have an STD? What kind of character do you have, Steph girl? There is something really wrong with you, and I think you might either be a sociopath and a narcissist. I don't see human emotion in this individual.
Like, the title of her video is right there, sir. Her name is there. So is her voice. How can you not tell that that's not me? Our format is nothing alike. I have macaroons flying all over the background. You know that's not me, and you're just playing dumb to make yourself seem innocent and naive. And I fell for it, while also possibly trying to make it seem like we're doing the same thing when I gave credit despite being a small channel and citing a million sources in that video. I showed that woman talking multiple times in that compilation. Her name is Cosmic Carrie. So I told him, no, that's someone else's video. All the links are in the description. And it took me a month to respond to this guy, so I'm supposed to believe that you never checked the description as a YouTuber after all that so-called research? So that's what happened on Twitter, and now we can finally get into the evidence. As I said before, it starts off small and you can explain away some of the things in the beginning, just like I did when I watched it, because I didn't just start off thinking, oh my god, he stole from me, but he gets more and more brazen with the stealing as the video goes on. So let's just get into it. His video starts off with a recap. I want to make it clear that just because someone is capable of recapping an incident doesn't mean that their video is original. Anyone can throw a recap at the beginning of their video in their own words and then go on to copy what you've done. It's not hard. Nick recapped the incident, Stephanie Sue recapped the incident, Christopher Tom did it, I did it, and so did everyone who had something to say about it. So whether he stole this from someone or not, he didn't steal the recap from me, I don't believe. So don't bother telling me that the beginning doesn't sound like my video because it's just a recap. Now, speaking of this recap, he stretched it out much further than he needed to. It goes on for like 11 minutes because he threw in a bunch of useless information like this, for example.
Veronica Wang is a 26-year-old YouTuber from Toronto, Canada. As many of you can probably already guess, she also makes mukbang videos. From doing a little research, I was able to discover that she was actually an escort before she did YouTube, going by the name V Vixen, and selling herself to who was presumably a bunch of overweight middle-class men on business trips. She may attempt to deny this, but her channel URL says otherwise.
You could have gone your whole life without knowing that information and still completely understand what happened. But he did this to give the facade of this being his own video. Throw in as much random information as you can at the beginning, and then maybe people will forget everything after your recap was stolen and reworded from someone else. That is, if he didn't just steal this part from another small YouTuber too. It would be impossible to know since he's stealing from people with 4K subs or less. Not to mention that he gave all of his shoutouts to big YouTubers in the beginning so that you could forget when he all of a sudden neglects to give them out when smaller YouTubers are presented. We'll come back to that soon. And while people will argue that a recap makes the video his own idea, they're wrong. Not only did he already see several recaps before making his own, but more importantly, all that people walk away remembering and commenting on is his analysis, his opinions, which is the most important part, and it just so happens to be the part that he stole from me. So no, I am not claiming that the first 11 minutes is from my video, and that doesn't nullify the claims of him stealing from me either. So like I said, the suspicion really starts to ramp up as it goes on, where at first you wonder if these are just his thoughts and it's all just a coincidence. For example,
she didn't explicitly say that Nick had assaulted her or that he was a predator, not in as many words anyway. What she did do is spend a large amount of time in her video saying that he was acting like a predator and that she had seen this pattern of behavior from him in predators, and she played clips that were completely unrelated to her experience with where she claimed that he was showing predatory behavior right before she talked about her experience with him.
Even though I said the same thing in my video,
I never implied that Nick harassed me.
And you said what he did to you was worse than being assaulted. That is the literal definition of implying that he sexually assaulted you or did something that was objectively worse.
I'm sorry, but there was no reason to bring up sexual assault into a discussion about ghosting me for a business meeting, lying about why you ghosted me for the business meeting, and then me being angry about it. Sexual assault, Me Too movement, PTSD, predatory tendencies, definitions about manipulation, and that has nothing to do with anything that took place.
Things like this can easily be dismissed as just his opinion, and that's how I felt when I first watched it. But when you make a video, it's very easy for you to recognize your own material in someone else's, and I can only be skeptical for so long. For one, the security footage. I have a whole clip about it, and even Christopher Tom showed that clip.
Stephanie had this to say about the photo.
Well, this is a picture that you showed in your video. And then you said that you took it because you wanted to see my lighting setup, which I do remember. You said, can I take a picture of your lighting setup? I said yes. I don't know about you, but typically I'd like to get a closer shot of the actual lighting setup if I wanted a picture of the lighting setup.
No, your lighting setup includes all of the lights in your room. Unless you turn all of your lights off when you film videos, the other lights in your kitchen is a part of the lighting setup. And look at how many lights there are. Turkey Tom, however, leaves the whole thing out because he had one thing to add, and that is that Stephanie has her security footage in her own videos.
Evidently, she is an even bigger threat to her own security, seeing how she has posted multiple videos where you can see her camera monitor in full view. Not to mention that she's done a number of videos showing off her house and the general location it is in, making it extremely easy to find her address. I'd imagine it will be hard to hire a lawyer on yourself.
Now when you compare that to what I already said, it does not hold as much weight, because someone could argue that it was an accident, that she didn't mean to. But when you put your own house and your address on public display for the whole world to see in an article, you have deliberately made yourself a public figure. So he had no reason not to show my clip. This security footage thing is such BS because you can easily go online and see that people have written articles about her. She is a public figure. They've written articles and taken pictures of her home with her security footage in her home. The same type of shots that Nikocado took, and she doesn't have a problem with it. You can easily find out what neighborhood she lives in. It's not a secret. His take on it was pretty much a watered down version of what I already said and implied, but it gets worse. My clip directly inspired him to point out her security footage because he saw my video first, and I'm not just talking about the clip that I just played. He never would have been able to make that point without me. It was my sources that gave that information to him.
It seems like you talk about my house more than I do.
Really? Do you really want to make that claim? She literally did a furniture haul, and another furniture haul, and another furniture haul, another fucking furniture haul. What the f? Oh my god, and there's another one. She has so many house videos, I had to stop myself just to move on to the next part of this video. And he never credited me for that, and I'll get back to that soon. But the point is, he left the original source out to make it look like it was his own opinion all along. In other words, he just reworded what I already pointed out. Like, why would you sacrifice information to make something seem like it's your own idea? It just doesn't make any sense if you're claiming to actually care about this issue. So we're at the 13-minute mark, and he says,
she didn't explicitly say that Nick had assaulted her or that he was a predator, not in as many words anyway. What she did do is spend a large amount of time in her video saying that he was acting like a predator and that she had seen this pattern of behavior from him in predators, and she played clips that were completely unrelated to her experience with where she claimed that he was showing predatory behavior right before she talked about her experience with him. Stephanie talked about her assault directly before discussing Nick. She even compares how she felt when Nick was pressuring her into making a video with him to the way that she felt when she was assaulted. Do you see why things don't quite seem equal here? He made a joke, and for that she accuses him of being a and supporting predators.
And because he watched my video first, that means that he saw this clip.
Furthermore, the allegations in her video are so serious. She has basically attempted to ruin Nicocado's life. Now, say what you want about him. You may like him, you may hate him, whatever. Nobody deserves to have their life ruined by fake allegations of being a predator.
You just said he did nothing sexual or abusive to you, and you're comparing this Me Too thing, which was sexual and abusive, allegedly, and all that stuff like that.
She'd rather do this whole thing with sexual assault and this emotional weapon to convince people that I'm a predator.
He then takes all of that and rephrases it into his own words. Tom, there's no reason for you to do this and not give credit. So in 15 minutes, here's one of the only 3 attempts that he made to add in his own opinion without copying from someone else. He said that Nick gave her permission.
So give me your consent if you truly think I'm a liar, if you truly think I'm a manipulator, if you truly think that your side is the truth, let me release the footage.
In Nick's own response video, he did in fact give Stephanie permission to release this and encouraged her to post it.
You know what the viewers will see? They will see upon arrival, the moment I stepped into her home, she gave me a whole house tour.
When I saw this, I thought, wow, good point. I didn't realize that. I went back to Nick's video and Nick never gave her permission. And that's why Tom said,
Nick is pretty adamant that he wants this footage to be released, and he thinks that it would exonerate him of any wrongdoing.
Nick made a claim. That is not the same as giving someone permission. He only told people what they would see if she showed it, and that's a big difference actually. They both benefit from the footage not being shown because it would make both of them look bad. And since it's her footage, she can easily cherry pick parts to make him look worse. If anything, Nick was just grandstanding and focusing on the parts that would make him look better, making false claims that he knows she's never going to actually refute with evidence, or else she would have to show things that would make herself look worse as well. There isn't one part in Nick's video where he says, show the footage, or I want her to show it, or anything of the sort. So Turkey Tom didn't actually add anything on this subject. If anything, he misinformed. But that's what happens when the only material that you have left is stuff that people already said. You gotta start making things up and grasping at straws. So at 16 minutes, as if for Stephanie's security footage, Tom plays the clip of Stephanie's video and shows her security footage in them.
Stephanie claims that Nick posed a security threat to her by posting an image of her security camera monitor. Evidently, she is an even bigger threat to her own security, seeing how she has posted multiple videos where you can see her camera monitor in full view. Not to mention that she's done a number of videos showing off her house and the general location it is in, making it extremely easy to find her address. I'd imagine it will be hard to hire a lawyer on yourself.
But the thing is, he got those videos from me. The only thing that he added is that her security footage is in her own videos, which was obviously implied in my video. And unlike him, I posted the video so that people could see it for themselves because, you know, my video is long enough as is. So some people are wondering, okay, well, he said, you know, go to her channel for all the sources that I stole. Okay, but how are you supposed to know that this security footage thing is a source that he stole from me? He didn't say, hey, here's one of the sources that I stole from Kurena Fujio. So how are you supposed to know that that's one of the things you're gonna find on my channel? You don't. He didn't say that that was one of my many sources that he took because he clicks on them and then pretends as if he found this information on his own. And when you keep pretending as if all the information that you found was on your own, telling people that you took sources from me at the end doesn't mean anything. What fucking sources if it's all your idea? Like, you have to differentiate what's your idea and what's not. But since the whole thing is fucking stolen, of course you can't do that. And he did it again. What I just showed you was 16 minutes into his video. Here around the 24-minute mark, he grabs more clips from her house tour stuff.
But Stephanie was showing off a lot of her furniture.
And I think you were happy to show it off to me.
And Stephanie responds to this saying that she would never show off anything to anyone and that he was being creepy about her apartment.
I would never show that off to you or anyone for that matter.
It's really weird that Stephanie would claim that she has never showed off her house or her furniture and would never do it to anyone when she has a pattern on her channel of doing exactly that. Videos about house hunting, house tours, furniture hauls, updates on new rooms in her apartment, showing off her kitchen. She has been extremely open about her personal life. She clearly has no intention of maintaining privacy in regards to her living space or what she owns.
He shows this as if I didn't point this out first.
When have I ever showed off to you, Nick? It seems like you talk about my house more than I do.
Really? Do you really want to make that claim? She literally did a furniture haul. I'm going to jump ahead to 25 minutes and 18 seconds for a moment. He is literally explaining manipulation tactics to people, and I'm supposed to believe that he doesn't know what he's doing?
She simply makes it seem that way in this video because it's convenient to building the narrative that Nick is a weird stalker. Stephanie including that clip of Nick is no coincidence. She absolutely wanted to paint him as a dangerous individual, albeit with barely any proof. She knew that her fans would be easily swayed, especially considering Nick's history.
You mean the same way that you're making it seem like this is an original video instead of what it actually is, taking credit for everyone else's hard work and ideas, and making hundreds or thousands of dollars off of it, subs and views? Okay, but moving on. So now we're at 1747. Someone points something out to him and he actually says their name.
I messaged Toad McKinley about the situation, and he brought something interesting to my attention. Firstly, take a look at this footage. Notice that the quality is pretty good, it's in color, and the text is slightly to the right of the top left-hand corner of the frame. In another video where she showed security camera footage, you can see that the video was black and white, and the text is in a different place, as well as being two different colors.
Now I already told you that he never says my name once in this video. So why does he say their name? Because 5,000 Twitter followers is a lot more powerful than 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. Anyone who makes content or understands social media knows that their metrics are completely different. He mentioned a lot of people actually. Here's a little compilation.
YouTuber Stephanie Sue. I messaged Toad McKinley. Veronica Wang was Nikocado Avocado. Spill, a sort of drama documentation channel. Your Sass ASMR. Even PewDiePie made it.
You see, he's mentioning PewDiePie, Nikocado, Stephanie Sue, Veronica Wang, and a lot of other people. You can say all of their names, but you can't say ours, because when it comes to people who actually have any level of influence, he'll credit their input and say their name. Hell, he showed this person's Twitter while saying their name. But because the three of us are small, we didn't get that. I would go on, but we're not at that point of the video yet. But you would have said my name. If I was bigger than you, you would have said my name. If we had the same sub count, even if I had less subs than you. If I was Christopher Tom, you would have said my name. Because he has over 50,000 subs, so you can't get away with it. The only way that you get anything out of people like Turkey Tom is if you have some form of influence. Be it friendship, business, status, or social influence. If you have no influence, not only will he not give you anything, but he'll intentionally hold you back whenever he can. This is not an accident. This is centered around the fact that there is a hierarchy of elitist YouTubers, which I will explain later on. What people don't understand is that when he does this, when he mentions the name of this person on Twitter, just for simply pointing something out to him, this insinuates to his audience that this is one of the only times that his opinion came from somewhere else, further pushing the narrative that he didn't take anything from anyone other than what he showed. And that is just a flat out lie. So I'll ask the question again. How are people supposed to know what sources you took from me when you don't say anything about it, but you'll say something here? He said that I did a really good job in pointing out inconsistencies, or again, my video did a really good job. So if it did such a good job, then why don't you point out when my ideas helped to influence yours? So now that you've seen a moment where he's proven himself to be completely capable of giving proper credit when he uses someone's ideas, it'll be that much more prevalent to you when he doesn't. And speaking of which, so at this point of the video here, I forgot to mention that he actually stole from Nick a couple of times. For example, Nick explained that he combed through Stephanie's video and that at no point did she make the pose that's in her thumbnail.
Millions of people are coming to this video to learn why this girl who's crying and holding herself, which by the way, the thumbnail doesn't even appear in the video.
Turkey Tom pretends as if he didn't see that and says,
"A public opinion. Take a look at the thumbnail of the video. It's no coincidence that it is a picture of Stephanie looking sad. YouTube provides 3 auto-generated thumbnails when you upload a video, with the option to upload a custom thumbnail. When watching this entire video, I was not able to find anywhere that her face matched this expression."
And we know that he watched Nick's videos first because he showed Nick's video. And Tom, it's really starting to feel like you need everyone else's help to make your own videos for you, which actually sounds familiar.
And I mean, the guy couldn't even shout me out on that. Again, he just puts me in the description because he's a piece of fucking shit. He's a greedy little motherfucker that just wants to use people and gain from them. He doesn't want to give you anything. He just wants to take.
They have a lot more in common than you think. And for the record, it's not that his video is just taking from a bunch of different people equally. His entire video is structured around mine. We're just not at the point where I can prove that to you yet. At 1920, Tom mentioned Stephanie crying and switching to smiling, which both I and Nick talked about. And yes, he did play my clip, but I'll get to that in just a second, so hold on. Here's our clips that point at this out.
While it may seem somewhat petty at first, it's also worth noting that throughout the video, Steph goes from crying to laughing and making fun of Nick pretty quickly, having no issue switching between the two emotions on a whim. You'd think that if her feelings were genuine, then she would have a harder time finding the humor in it all, and instead would be on the brink of having another mental breakdown.
And when she calms down, it isn't abrupt and immediate like in her exposure video. It's a smooth transition. So once again, her switching from crying to smiling isn't his opinion, and he doesn't credit anyone else for it. Afterwards, he shows a clip of me pointing out how the crying itself is fake, but he cut my clip short to so-called add his own opinion, to make it seem like this is still his opinion.
In fact, in this video about Nick, we don't see her shed a single tear.
And once again, the opinion he adds is false. She did shed a tear. I actually pointed it out. You see how she's keeping her eyes open while reading, like just keeping them open. She's like, and then she like blinks and she's trying to get these tears out. Like she's trying to force these tears out. Notice how once she finally got the tears out, she's calming right back down. Like as soon as she got them one tear, like they came out of both her eyes, but she gets them out and then she's like, yep, blah 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 blah, and just goes back to like, you know. But this was in my original video. This would be Tom's second attempt to add his own opinion, and it's not that big of a deal, but it's still misinformation. And now we can get back to that whole name thing from earlier, where I explained how he can say all these bigger YouTuber names, but then when he gets to me and other small channels, he just plays the clip. Like that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. He just cuts to me talking, no explanation or anything.
Not to mention that her crying here appears different from every other instance of her crying that we have been able to find.
These tears are much more real. Wait. I just realized this while editing. He says at 1936.
Not to mention that her crying here appears different from every other instance of her crying that we have been able to find.
You mean what I found? What are you talking about? You didn't find anything of substance. Look at the little clips that he's showing of Stephanie so-called crying that he found.
In every other video where she is crying, she has them streaming down her face and is struggling to stay composed.
Doesn't mean anything. It's not nearly as authentic as the clip that I found.
And I wanted to protect this person. I wanted them to stop hurting them. And I didn't know what to do.
That's why you had to use my clip. That's why you only played the audio of my clip and silenced the ones that you showed that you so-called found. You honestly could have stolen that from somebody too. Who the f knows? Like, you didn't help. This wasn't a collaboration, so why are you trying to say we found something? And on top of that, if you're actually working with me, then why didn't you say my name? If this is a collaboration, where's the equal amount of credit? Like, what the hell? And you know, I could probably find a lot more stuff if I just keep watching his video over and over and over and over, which I have to do while editing this. But man, it just gets more and more depressing. Like, I don't even want to finish this shit because it's just so frustrating looking at how much he got away with and knowing that most likely people are just gonna buy the fact that it really is his opinion. But I'm still gonna say what I have to say because I honestly can't stand looking at this shit knowing what he got away with. But, you know, I digress. Back to the whole him making weird transitions of my content and the people he stole from.
Not to mention that her crying here appears different from every other instance of her crying that we have been able to find.
These tears are much more real. She's constantly messing with her nose. Like you're saying names throughout the whole video until you get to me. Then you just show my clip with no transition. And he does this 2 other times, by the way, when he's showcasing the other smaller YouTubers that he stole from. He doesn't give them an additional introduction either. Just for context, this is what he did.
However, if she wants to play that game, then let's have a look at a few clips from her own channel.
What does one do when they contract an STD? I had this intense fury, this intense anger towards this teacher, and I decided it was going to be my new life mission to ruin her life. Like, that's how horrible I was.
Do you see how awkward these transitions are? Now we'll get to the details of that soon, but it's just a deliberate shunning of our names. And I truly believe that if it wasn't for my unique format, no one would know who I am when watching this, just like how no one knows who the other 2 people are. This is what's so conniving. Understand that when I showcased their clips, it was in my video with my format. So because my format wasn't in the background, you can tell that he deliberately went to their channels to grab these clips. For one, it's conniving because it makes his audience think that he found them on his own. Understand that when he went out of his way to go to their channel to get these clips and download them himself, he saw their sub count, saw that no one knew who they were, so he made the conscious decision to leave their names out as well. And I think that he does this because he probably does this fairly often, so he purposefully finds smaller channels to steal from and then doesn't showcase their name, and they can't say anything about it because we have less than 4K subs. I just think this is routine for him, because if he can successfully do this to 3 people in one video, I wonder how many more people he's stolen from. Think about it. If you were to say that someone successfully killed 3 people and got away with it, they've probably done it before. You understand? It's simple. Just go to their page, check their level of influence, and if they're not big, cut them out and shove them down, because we're not his friends, no one knows who we are, and he wants to keep it that way. And it'd be one thing if we personally did something to him, but we don't even know this guy. He's just going around taking from people. Now this is the hand-me-down effect if I ever saw it. He's playing telephone.
If she's really that torn up about the situation, then it's unlikely that she would use the tags of the video to mock him.
Hi, Nick. I know you're seeing this.
Do these really seem like things that a victim would say, directly taunting the man who she's accusing of being a predator? Why would she like Nick's posts about how he would fire back at her? Unless she was trying to signal to him that she was getting away with it.
And it's like, he's even talking over the clip where Nikocado is explaining it. Explaining that Stephanie liked his post. So why not just stop talking and show the original source material?
Would she like Nick's posts about how he would fire back at her? Unless she was trying to signal to him that she was getting away with it.
And you know, one of my friends pointed out something funny to me. She said, it's like, how are you going to claim that you did all of this research when you're using sources of sources from the source material? You know, things that have already been derived from the source material? Because if you actually did your own research, you would have the original source material. If you actually did research, then you should have at least one original point to add. There is no point to make a video that just rehashes what everyone else has said, because basically then you're just like, huh, these people made a lot of good points, but I don't have any good points, so I'm just going to take what they said because I don't have a brain. At 22:52, he steals from Nick again.
Accusations like this can't just be moved on from. They will follow someone forever.
Which Nick already pointed out in great detail, as well as myself.
And this is gonna follow me for life. For life. For life. Because you couldn't have a conversation? Because you didn't want to talk about some girl that you told me you wanted to?
And remember how I said that the blatant stealing and copying really starts to ramp up around 20 minutes? Well, we're almost there, and it just gets sadder from here.